Hello, how you doing? My name is Mike, aka Prophetsong. I'm a musician from South Philly, and I just wanted to do this video because basically it's important for those that basically follow me or are into my music to know what kind of person I am. And one of the things that reveals who you are is basically your political forms or your political mindset. Especially in this day and age, because it's like our political messages is congruent with our actual morality. And I just like to take a moment and just talk to you about that. I've been looking and at the Democrats, at the Republicans, at Trump, and actually what they're saying. And one thing that I've noticed that basically I find very disturbing is one candidate that seems to be gaining popularity from the 2016 election, and he's running for office in 2020, is Bernie Sanders. And I looked into his background because as you're listening to somebody, you need to find out where they came from to get a feel of the person you're dealing with. And I looked into his background, and I was surprised to find out that he was born a Jew. I have nothing against Jews. I claim a Sephardic heritage because I'm a direct descendant of the Spanish Jews of northern Spain. So I have nothing against Jews at all. But there's something that disturbs me about this one in particular Jew, is that he takes stance against the Jewish people, which is really bizarre because they're his own ethnic group. And this is something I got to look at very carefully, because if he's at odds with his own group and he's not looking out for their interest, how can he look out for the interest of anybody else? And as in the position of president, you have to look out for the entire country's interest. And that actually puts up a concern of mine. Not only that, but he also takes totally anti-Semitic stances. And he aligns himself with representatives, those from the House of Representatives that I've known with making anti-Semitic statements. I'm referring to AOC, Tlaib, and Rashad. Especially Omar Rashad. Rashad has made a lot of statements in the House and got censured for making anti-Semitic statements. And she claims that all the problems we have to do economically has to do with the Jews manipulating the monetary system, which is in fact racist against Jews. And they try to pass bills, or proposed bills, that would basically boycott Israel and collapse the nation, which is, again, is anti-Semitic or racist. And they champion racism, but it doesn't click in their head that being anti-Semitic is racism. And this is totally weird, especially from Bernie Sanders, who was born as a Jew. And this concerns me very much because you look into the historical history, especially in Germany. In World War II, you got Himmler, and Hitler himself had Jewish blood. Both had Jewish blood, I think was on their mother's side, but they had no regard for their own group. And they came to power and they stood up hatred towards their own ethnic group and tried to wipe them out. And I see Bernie Sanders rising to power, attacking his own ethnic group, giving a socialist theme, which is the same as the Nazi parties. They were socialist. It was a socialist party. And the weird things I hear Bernie Sanders saying is like statement he made in the last election cycle, that there are no white drug addicts in the ghetto, which is really weird because I used to work with rehab centers, Teen Challenge and stuff that in Philadelphia. And I can take him to the Kensington section and introduce him to a few drug addicts that are white in the ghetto. And it's a weird mindset because he's claiming that the people of his own group, which in this case would be the whites. You look at his skin, he's actually a white Jew. He's a Russian Jew, which would actually have his own ethnic group be white Jew. And he's claiming they don't exist. And he keeps on claiming white privilege, which is funny because he's actually white. Saying the problem in the nation has to do with white privilege, and he happens to be white privilege himself. And he takes a stance on something called social inequality, while he owns $3 million homes. If he's concerned about the economics not being equal, then he would prove it by selling at least two of those homes. It is the strangest thing I've seen. Not to mention, I've seen a video where there was an interview between this African-American Trump supporter and a civil rights lawyer. And they were going into the economics, or the numbers coming out, and it appears there's an increase. The employment level within the black and Hispanic and Latino community is at a historic low, and the income is on the rise, which is good. So he's doing a lot of good for these groups, right? And the African American pro-Trump man is just emphatic about what Trump did. And you have the black civil rights lawyer, or the African American civil rights lawyer, coming out and trying to twist it as a form of slavery. And then I'm thinking about it, he has something to gain, because a civil rights lawyer makes money off of racial conflict. And Trump coming up making the things better for minorities actually lessens racial conflict. So he's taking a narrative against it because it basically, from what I understand, he was coming against something that would hinder his pockets. And we see that a lot of coming up because division and discrimination is used by evil people to gain power and wealth. Because you can't claim you're a discriminated people if you can occupy the seats of power. Right? We have had a black president, black congressman, black DOJ was black, the Attorney General was black mayors, black governors. They're occupying seats of power. Not to mention, we have these men coming up as college professors, claiming racial discrimination, who happen to be African American, lawyers who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, who are also African American, millionaire entertainers and musicians, claiming economic injustice. Instead of going out to the people and helping them gain what they gained, they're pitting them against the whites, which is strange. Because that's not has to do with equality. I mean, it's a matter of being accountable for your own actions. And Bernie Sanders was debating on basically student debt, which was weird, because he claims that the government needs to pay off student debt. That's wrong. Because you take a loan out, you take the responsibility of being able to pay off that loan. And you should go into the price before you take it. You gotta figure out whether or not you would be able to pay it back. And there's a lot of these students took immature loans to get in. The colleges helped them. And we see this loan debt situation. It's going to end up with the collegiate loan system collapsing. So one of these loans don't get paid off. So it's going to be, at the end, they're not going to have any debt, because as these constitutions, these institutes of higher learning collapse economically, the students ain't going to owe money anymore, because you can't pay a loan. The institution doesn't no longer exist. So the situation is actually temporary. And you see AOC actually bragging about making a payment on a student loan in the phone in open session of Congress when she's actually working with the people. In the business realm, she would have been fired right out in the open for that. I mean, I'm looking at this and it's weird. It is very, very strange. It's like everything's out in the open and nobody's seen it. The key is to seeing this and seeing the things the way they actually are. Is don't allow your emotions to get the best of you. Think things out, because basically what the evil and wicked people do, they try to get you so angry or so emotional and you're not thinking straight, and then it just lead you. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. They were so angry with the Jews who haven't done nothing, they was able to use that anger against them to gain power. And that's what you gotta watch out for. Not everybody discriminate. And last thing I want to leave you with is entitlements. The Constitution says that all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their creators with certain inalienable rights. And then it gives a list of what those rights are. But it states that they're given by their creator. God gives out rights. Man doesn't. So you see Bernie Sanders trying to operate in the authority of a God, which would, well, basically, quite frankly, it's megalomania. He's trying to declare healthcare as your right. Healthcare is not a right. Healthcare is a privilege. Paying off student loans is not your right. You don't have a right to ask the government to pay it off. You don't have a right to somebody else's income. You earn your own. It's called personal accountability. And that's one thing you gotta watch out. All they can give is privileges, because you sinned, you've fallen short of the glory of God. The only thing you have coming from God, rightly, is death and hell. Everything else is a privilege. So we need to get off this entitlement and just be thankful for the good things we have. If you have a roof over your head, food on the table, someone to love, and clothing, basically you have everything you need to live. That's what true prosperity is. It's the area of lacking nothing. It's when you go to the area where you lack nothing, not to be filthy rich, to have all this material stuff. That's not wealth, that's bondage. And that's what they're producing. I mean, and the word they're using that basically is a lie is free. Nothing's free. Nothing is free. And that's the way we got to go in order to see straightly. Well, that's my take on the whole thing. I thank you for your time. This is Prophetsong out.